Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This is the Code of Conduct with the King podcast. I am your host, Jay Spence the King, and I am back after a 2-week hiatus, man. I've been missing y'all. I've been missing the Conduct crew. That's what I call y'all now. I got my own little nickname for my people. But hey, I'm excited about tonight because I have a very, very, very special guest, and I'm actually just bring him right on in, man. We're not going to play no games. I got my man joining me from WGR 550. He's also a contributor for one of my favorite networks. Actually, the crew that got me into like wanting to do podcasting in the first place. He's a contributor for Cover One. So I'm going to bring in my man Nate Geary from WGR. As soon as this music stops, man, you can start talking. But how's it going today, man? I'm going to just go ahead and take it on off. How's it going today, man?
Well, honestly, it's good. It's good. Well, here's the thing. Your intro is much better than like my own radio show's intro. So I'm gonna have to clip this and send it to my producer because we're gonna need to step it up a little bit if this is the kind of podcast intros I'm dealing with out there. I better step the game up a little bit.
Well, you know what? When I first started, I didn't know much about podcasting at all, but I knew a lot about music. So I said, well, if I ain't going to be good podcaster, my intro going to be the best. So, yeah.
I mean, so far, so good, my friend. So far, so good.
But, man, how's it going? Today seems like a fun day in Bills Mafia or Bills News. What you think?
OTA started today. We got to see Josh Allen in a visor, which he just keeps teasing and teasing and teasing. And as an aficionado of helmet swag and just overall football swag, it's long overdue that he wears it in the game situation. It's just.
I just think it needs to. We're going to start a petition. I think once this show is over, I'm going to start a hashtag and everything. We got to figure it out, but we're going to get him in a visor. Like this has to happen this season.
So here's what I'm going to do. I just want to set my credibility straight by showing you a picture of me from college. I should have had this up and ready, but I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. But I think this is an important time for me for you guys to understand if people are listening to me for the first time. And I'm talking about helmet swag. And they're like, "What's this kid know about helmet swag?" I just want to show you, kind of who you're talking to. I'll find a good one here. I'm so close. Okay. It's tough to see. I don't have any good pictures, but I mean, we had some pretty good. Yeah. Some pretty good helmet swag. I used to go with the skinny bands right above the elbow, and then I would have got to have the calf bands, bro. I had some calf bands as well. So I knew what I was doing. Okay, I have the right to call Josh Allen out on his helmet swag. Let's just.
You were like every young person's created player in Madden in like 2004. Like easy.
If there was an accessory to put on,
you had it.
I had the sleeve, the one with the elbow pad. You got to get when I had long hair. You had to get the Jordan tie band around the head. Yeah. I mean. You name it. You name it. I did it. On-field swag is a big, important thing for me. I believe there is a very direct correlation between looking good on the field and playing good in the game. That is a direct line that I draw. So, although Josh has really he's kind of curbed that tradition. I think if he brings the visor game, I'm just wondering where the ceiling is for Josh Allen if he brings that to the table.
I'm going to just tell you what, I feel like, he's the guy because, I think it's a league rule right now where if you do wear a visor, it has to be either smoked or clear. So I think because it's the quarterback and he's Josh and he's who he is, he's going to be the guy to break that rule. Like he's going to be the guy, Brady got the tuck rule. He's that Aaron Rodgers
gonna have like the smoke red.
He's going to have he's going to have a fire red joint and it's going to be fresh. So I'm with you on that, man. So we're going to start a petition. We'll think about it. We'll get a good hashtag and me and you will man that.
I will certainly man that with you for sure.
So it's going to be fun. But look, I got a fun show for us today because you're with me. So I want to get it going. I titled the show today, Politics as Usual. And the reason why, obviously, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. As you see, I got on my Jay-Z Blueprint 2 COVID safe shirt because he's wearing his mask. But on top
just listening to Holy Grail on the way home from the golf course. So
good choice. Always a good choice. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, today I feel like Bills Mafia and fans across the league, we all fell victim again to the same stuff that everybody falls to every single year. So the first one was the tweet about Aaron Rodgers not showing up to voluntary camp. And everybody's like, no, it's different because he showed up every year previously, which is true. He has shown up every year previously. However, it's a voluntary workout. So I feel like every year we always get caught up in the whole who doesn't show up to voluntary. Do you think this is something to read into, or do you think it's nothing the way I see it?
I mean, I'm not going to view him showing up to OTAs as some sort of statement, because doesn't it feel like he's already sort of made the statement? This is just seems like it's kind of staying consistent with what his representation has been saying to the media, what the media has been regurgitating, and from all accounts, it looks like most of the media leaks are coming from Rodgers' team. So if Rodgers is out there letting people know that, he wants to move on, if there's people that are, tweeting out and reporting that he was texting, potential free agents that were coming in not to play there, texting teammates that Gutekunst is sort of like Jerry Krause. I mean, you say that kind of stuff and it sort of seems like you're looking to get on the way out. So I guess my question here is, I don't feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to play for another team, not this year. So what does that talk about? It's like kind of like breaking up with your significant other, but then like going to go hang out and do weird things with them, like just do normal things, but you're broken up, so it's like with Aaron Rodgers, is he going to show up to training camp if he hasn't been traded? I think the answer to that question is yes. And what's that dynamic going to be like? Is that really good for the Packers? That's why, I think ultimately the Packers are in an impasse here, because I think they're in a no-win situation. I think a disgruntled Aaron Rodgers might as well be no Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, with that team and where they are and the window that they're in. So for me, it feels like the Green Bay kind of has to blink and kind of has to make the move and take what you can get for Aaron Rodgers, which will be a lot, by the way. It's not like, he's not going to bring you back a hefty return in any sort of trade. So I don't know. It's going to be awkward. I mean, there's just no doubt about it to me. But I don't think not showing up to OTAs is like a sign that he's disgruntled. I think we already know. And like the footprints are in the snow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, like you mentioned, or your analogy, I should say, you said like it's like breaking up with your girlfriend, and then, I mean, how many times have you throughout your life broken up with somebody, and then like it's like
went to the movies with
process? Them. Yeah, it's like a 6-month process, man. Like I don't want to like go out there and just be like a floozy. So I'm not sleeping with everybody. I'm still kind of with my ex, but not with my ex because she makes me sick. You know what I mean? Like that's the life. So that's where Aaron is right now.
Lone Wolf, one of the comments, he says kind of like when my ex-wife used to go out to dinners after we got divorced.
Yeah. But you know what? I know a lot of people like that. Honest to God, I know a lot of people who break up or get divorced. And the thing is, it's like they become best of friends, especially after they break up. I feel like this relationship with Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay isn't over.
It's not going that way. By the way,
yeah.
And by the way, here's the crazy thing, and this is something to consider when you're thinking about the type of person we're dealing with Aaron Rodgers. This is a man that has cut his family off. He doesn't speak to his own brother or his parents. Right. This dude goes scorched earth on his parents. He has no problem going scorched earth on Green Bay.
Yeah, no, none whatsoever. He's not. My thing is. And then actually, this is a good transition. It's a good segue. So I've also been seeing a lot of people talk about how they haven't drafted a first-round pick for him on the off as a weapon. No receiver, no tight end, no running back. Okay. Everybody's like, go out and get Julio. Fix it. I don't think that's the problem in Green Bay. I don't think Aaron Rodgers. Now, would he be happy if you went and got a Julio Jones? Sure. Of course. But I don't think the problem is Aaron Rodgers saying, hey, I don't have Devontae Adams. Hey, I don't think that's the problem. The problem is he hates the GM. Mm-hmm. He hates the way the team has been operated. They let go of Van Pelt as his coordinator or his quarterback's coach, whichever he was. I can't remember. But there's just been multiple things that they've done that you typically don't see organizations do to their franchise guy. So, I mean, do you think it's a simple fix as far as like, hey, let's just go get this guy a weapon or two and maybe he'll shut up and be happy? Or do you think it's like, okay, Aaron Rodgers is like, this is where it is?
Julio Jones could fix a lot of things. I'm not sure that he can repair the disconnect that's happening in Green Bay, but I certainly think it could be the reason Aaron Rodgers finishes his career there, whether or not Aaron Rodgers can put aside some of the stuff that he's got going on with it. It feels personal between Gutekunst, the general manager, and Rodgers. And, Rodgers is on record last year talking about how in their second year of the Matt LaFleur offense was really when things took off. Obviously, he won the MVP. Is Rodgers at this point in his career willing to go somewhere where he knows it's going to be at least another year before he hits that stride with that team? I mean, it's kind of the scary thought about Brady, right? Like, could Brady end up being better or be the guy that we saw like in the playoffs all season? Because then, Tampa could be a team that, is like going undefeated kind of team. But kind of going back to Rodgers, because I was digressing a little bit, but with Rodgers, Julio Jones certainly would help things, right? I just wonder if the only thing that could really fix the situation is that divorce, is him being traded. And does Julio Jones change things? I mean, Julio Jones is going to change things almost regardless of where he goes, right? Like, if he goes to Buffalo, it changes things on the offense. He goes to Tennessee, I mean, it changes the entire outlook of what Tennessee's offense can be. So,
oh my gosh,
I view this. I am probably maybe I'm higher on Julio than maybe I should be. And maybe people who are too low on him, I think maybe we're just in opposite ends, and it's probably falls somewhere in the middle of people that say he's 32 years old and he's, injured all the time, which, by the way, I don't agree with. He missed 6 games last year, but he's been a pretty durable guy. He's played through a lot of injuries, and he's not a guy that misses a lot of games. When he does, he's really hurt, but he'll play through pain. And you don't see that with every receiver in the league.
Well, and not to cut you off, I just don't want to miss this point because I'll forget. The thing is, too, also with him showing up on the injury report, there are often, like every year, he shows up on the injury report the same way Tom Brady does, where it's not necessarily like he's injured. Like, Brady is always has a shoulder injury or always has it, but he's playing every week. Julio shows up on the report every single week, but I guarantee you have to worry about him if he's on that field. So,
100%.
To your point, people kept saying all day, I've been debating all day, like, hey, he is not washed. He is not, just because he's 32 and he missed, games last year. And then last year, if they were in contention, he would have played more than 9 games.
100%.
They shut him down early just because they weren't in contention. So, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's a really the Julio dynamic, and I guess the point I was making when I was kind of rattling these teams off is he changes a lot of things if he goes to another team, if he's traded. And I think that some Bills fans had the fan goggles on, and when I tweeted about Gabriel Davis and a 2nd round pick as a trade, and people telling me that you can't trade Gabriel Davis because he's will be as good as Julio Jones, or they're the same player at this point in their careers. I mean, you people, listen, everybody loves the Bills. I love Gabriel Davis. I think he's going to be a really solid player. At best, he's a wide receiver too. He's not one of the best receivers to ever play the game, and that's Julio Jones, and he's 32 years old. That's not that old. So yeah, I think Julio changes dynamics pretty much anywhere he goes. I think if he goes to Green Bay is clearly trying to make a peace offering, right? Like he's out there, they're out there actively trying to say, we're going to re-sign you. Hey, well, how about an extension? How about more money? Rodgers says no to that. How do you say no exactly to Julio Jones? And I don't think you can,
No. And one of the arguments and one of the things that I basically throw out there, I'm not a fan. Like when I say I'm not a fan of getting Julio, I'm not saying I wouldn't take him. What I'm saying is for our roster, for our team, I don't think we need him.
Certainly no need.
People are crazy. If anybody I've seen say that Julio is this, Julio is that, Julio is this, in a negative way, you're crazy. Julio is a top 5 wide receiver when he's not
right
healthy.
now, and right now he is.
And when he's healthy, he's the best in the league. And it's not close. I love Hopkins. Hopkins is my favorite. Diggs is my second favorite. But outside of favorites, listen, I can't hate at all on Julio Jones. So now let's transition it to the Buffalo Bills conversation, because everybody has been talking about this all day. We've been debating it like everywhere all day. What do you think? First of all, before we even get to is the trade possible, do you think he's a fit with our roster?
Yes.
I've been seeing a lot of people say that they're concerned about him coming in and messing up a chemistry. No. This is I keep seeing chemistry, so I just want to know, like, as a fit, I don't understand why people keep using chemistry and saying that he would ruin the chemistry. I don't see it.
Here's the thing: this offense, I've heard things like "there's only one ball," which is right. There is only one ball, but look at the NBA; they figure it out. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. There's only one ball there, but they figure it out, right? Yeah. I view this offense as a pass-heavy offense. They're going to throw the ball a bunch. Give me players like Julio Jones. And here's the thing. For me, you have to have Stefon Diggs sign off on a move like this. This is a move you go and say, hey, Diggs, we're thinking about adding Julio Jones. And if you're Stefon Diggs, you are just like DeAndre Hopkins. You're like these best receivers in the league. And you say, I'm sorry, what? You get to put a guy on the other side of me that they now have to pay attention to just as much as me? I don't think Diggs views that as an opportunity to take targets away from him. I think he views it as a way to get safeties stopped rolling over the top to him, right? So I don't think there's any conversation about fit or chemistry. I think he walks in and makes this team a really hard out. They become right next to Kansas City as the most dangerous offense ever assembled. And those are the things that you have to sort of get past a lot of the, listen, no one is denying a guy like Gabriel Davis. And we're not even saying that in a potential move of trying to get him that you'd have to get rid of Gabriel Davis. But if you did, Gabriel Davis could be a nice player for a long time. He is never going to scratch what Julio Jones is and the impact that he's had on the NFL. And if you could add Julio Jones next to Stefon Diggs, and you could find a way to keep Cole Beasley in that equation as well, I just don't know what defenses are supposed to do to stop this offense. And I think if you want to talk about a way to make the run game better, add Julio Jones to the field. If you want to see Josh Allen take that additional step, give him Julio Jones. I just think for me, Julio Jones takes this probably top of tier 2. I think if you're one of tier teams, it's Tampa Bay and Kansas City in tier 1. And if you want to say the tier 2 teams are Super Bowl contenders still, you want to tell me that the Bills are right up there, sort of the premier teams of tier 2, I think I'm buying that. Julio Jones brings the Bills from top of tier 2 in the same conversation as Kansas City and Tampa Bay. And I won't be told otherwise. Like that is just what will happen. That is the presence that a player like Julio Jones can have on a team that already has a Stefon Diggs and already has a Josh Allen who has shown he can play at an MVP level. So yeah, like for me, I couldn't be less concerned about fit or chemistry. This is a team that has assembled some really top-end talent, unselfish players. This is a locker room that has bought in. I think everyone in that locker room would be giddy to have Julio Jones on the field.
And I was just going to say, like, and I know this isn't Bills news, but I mean, you saw now, obviously, guys, I'm out here in Phoenix. You guys saw what Hopkins said about it. He tweeted out. He said, "Yeah, they asked me if I would restructure my contract and take less to bring Julio. I guarantee you, every single top receiver in the league would be like, oh, so I don't have to get double teamed if we bring Julio? Heck yeah, let's win. Let's do it. Every top receiver, I can guarantee. Now, I haven't talked to Diggs. Stefon does not know me. We ain't buddies. I'll ask him. I'll send him a tweet or something and see. But I'm telling you, I guarantee you his answer will be, no, bring that dude in here. Let's win some championships. Because that's where these guys are at. They want to win. And you said earlier, there's only one ball. You're right. There's only one ball. There's one ball in Kansas City. Last year, there was one ball in Tampa Bay. There's one ball in Indiana. Listen, Indianapolis is going to be they're going to be tough this year. One ball. I don't know why everybody keeps throwing that out there. I want to have the most talent around my quarterback as possible. Because say Diggs does get injured. Say Beasley has a broken leg and he's not 100% in the playoffs. Say Diggs in the playoffs has a torn, a core muscle or whatever.
Yeah. What do you have? Like an oblique?
Yeah. So think about these things. It's a long season. We're adding an additional game. It's 17 games now instead of 16. Listen, those guys who obviously in the preseason, they didn't typically play because it's preseason. You're playing. This is a game for the playoffs. You're playing. So no, I'm all in on if they were to bring him here, I would be happy about it. If Brandon Beane doesn't go get him, I'm happy about it. I think that the Buffalo Bills are at a place where now we're looking for luxuries. We're looking for
things to get you over the top. And listen, I think that do I think a Julio Jones trade is happening for the Bills? I would, if somebody asked about a percentage, 1%. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Greg Thompson at Cover One kind of just put together a jokingly sort of, a way to make it work, right? I mean, it could work. I mean, just like anything in the NFL, they're talking about the Rams trying to make a move for Julio Jones. You know what they would have to do to make that work?
Right.
They'll do it. They haven't had a first round pick since I was in high school. Okay, so like they'll figure out ways. And NFL teams,
cap space.
Cap space is a fallacy. If you have the money, look at New Orleans. New Orleans was a $62 million over the salary cap to start the offseason, and here they are. So salary cap's a fallacy. If you want a player, you can go get a player. I just would bet at this point, I feel like they probably feel pretty good. Listen, now, if this Julio Jones conversation gets the legs that it's got right now at the start of free agency, and they're not talking about post June 1st, and they don't sign Emmanuel Sanders, now I'm convinced that's a move you might really look at without Emmanuel Sanders on the roster.
Well, let me ask you this though, because, and I could be wrong in this. I feel like Emmanuel Sanders was signed to take John Brown's role in a way. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say that's players accurate, to me,
yeah. But I feel like he's there to take that role. The reason why I feel like even though we signed him, that this is still a move that they can make if they wanted to as a luxury, is because
Emmanuel Sanders wouldn't stop them from making that move.
And that's where I'm at. Like with what we saw last season, especially with the injury to John Brown, the role is one of those roles where it's like, okay, we got it. When you're there, great. If not, but if you're talking about adding basically another type of production like Stefon Diggs, that is, to me, is different. It's not in the same conversation as the Emmanuel Sanders or the John Browns. Yep. Even Cole Beasley, as much as I love our all-pro guy, it's a completely different conversation. So, but that $15 million, as Richard Rutch is talking about now, it's pretty steep. It's a steep number when you're talking about, trading for a guy that we don't need. But man, it would be so much fun to watch. And here's my take. I'm gonna get yelled at, and you can yell at me too if you feel I'm wrong.
Okay.
I still don't think the Bills are ready for the Chiefs. I think both games when we played them last year, we actually got beat up pretty bad. The first game, the score didn't look like we got beat up pretty bad, but we got beat up pretty badly, and it could have been worse. The AFC Championship, we definitely got beat up pretty badly. I know there were some injuries. I know some things, but I don't want to have an excuse. We got beat up pretty badly. I don't think they got worse. They improved their entire offensive line. Like, they really improved their offensive line compared to the team that we faced in the AFC Championship. It's a different type of guys. All those guys protecting Patrick Mahomes is different. I don't think we got closer. I don't think we closed that gap. So to me, the reason why I think about a Julio Jones situation is because that's a move that truly closes that gap. I don't think our draft closed that gap.
I agree with you that the draft did not close the gap. I would push back. The only thing I don't agree with is I don't think they got better on the offensive line. I think they got different, but I don't think that means they got better. And I'm going to tell you why. Listen, I like Orlando Brown Jr. a lot. I think he's going to find out very quickly that blocking for Patrick Mahomes is so much different than blocking in Baltimore for Lamar Jackson. And the reason being is Patrick isn't moving around to run the football. He is moving around to create separation, to create time, to throw the football. And that's a different type of responsibility when he's going to be moving. Listen, I think he'll be a good left tackle. I think the numbers that we saw and the success he had in Baltimore had a lot to do with that is one of the friendliest offensive line schemes in all of the league. It is as friendly as friendly gets. And I think he's going to arguably the least offensive line friendly system, team, quarterback in the entire league. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Orlando on that left side when he's – and by the way, who's playing on the right side? Like, I got Mike Remmers at right tackle. I know they like that Niang kid, and maybe he pops in and starts over Remmers at right tackle. Maybe Creed Humphrey moves right in and starts as a rookie on the interior. That's not an offensive line that I think from left to right, I'm not sold that they got better. I'm sold that they got younger in some spots. I'm sold that they spent a lot of money on Joe Thuney. And I'm sold that they would have spent even more money on Trent Williams, the left tackle. And that's a team to me that I just like, they offered like Trent Williams like 6 years, $140 million or something. And the guy's 33 years old. So, like their decision-making on the offensive line, listen, I did not like the move from the Ravens because you don't trade a good player, a good young player, I don't care what the return is, to a team that you have to competitively get over. I mean, that is, to me, that was an egregious move by the Ravens. Egregious. Regardless if you like the player or not. But I think it says something to me that Baltimore Ravens organization, they know how to develop talent. And the whole Earl Thomas thing happened last year in that locker room. And you saw what happened. That team does not let locker room stuff bother them. They just cut, they move away, and you don't hear about Earl Thomas again. I think there was something going on that, because to me, the Ravens had all the leverage in that move because they had a 5th-year option and they had a franchise tag. And they basically gave him away with a draft pick. They sent away a 2nd-round pick with him. So there was clearly something at play, and maybe Andy Reid gets the best of him, but I'm not sold that Kansas City's offensive line got better. I 100% agree with you, though. I don't think the Bills got really closer to Kansas City, and I do agree that I think they're 100% in a different tier than the Bills are. And I haven't seen the Bills play a good offensive performance against the Chiefs. I think they can, and I think if they play better offensively, that they can keep a closer score. I don't know that this defense has the personnel to stop that offense.
Let me ask you this about because you just mentioned something, and I know you just went to the defense and all that, but you just said offensively you haven't seen us have a good game against them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Tom Brady was in New England, I always felt like the moment, because Josh was excited. I don't want to say it was too big for him, but I felt like he was excited, so his nerves just wasn't there. And he's admitted before that sometimes he needs to take a hit to get his nerves settled. Do you think that game, because he knows the gravity of it and how huge it is, do you think that maybe it's still one of those moments for him as to where, hey, this is Kansas City and I know all eyes are on me, the world is watching me, I got to perform, and he just does too much?
I think for the most part, the 2 games that they've played, I think their defensive game plan by Dennis Allen has been top tier, top notch execution, game plan, preparation, you name it. I've been saying this a lot about the Bills, about Josh Allen, about their matchups against Kansas City. Is it's really hard to get experience in the NFL in those types of moments unless you actually get to play them. I think that Josh Allen earned every bit of the accolades that he got, but he had something so valuable this last year, which is just time on task in games that mean a lot. And the end of the season, going for the division, and then into the wild card round, winning that first playoff game. Everything else was uncharted territory. Divisional round. The Bills haven't been the divisional round in 25 years. The AFC Championship game. They haven't been the AFC Championship game in 25 years. So there is a lot of firsts that happened for the Bills last year. And I think when the Bills get back to this stage, they're going to be more prepared for what that stage brings from a nerves perspective, from a game plan perspective, from how teams shift their scheme, shift their personnel, shift their level of play. Everybody, it's like playoff hockey, right? Or playoff basketball. Everyone is busting their ass a little bit harder than they are during the regular season. People are gripping the ball. So there's just a lot of things that you can't necessarily prepare for until it happens. I think they gained invaluable experience playing in the AFC Championship game and getting punched in the chin. I think there's a valuable lesson in that. And you look at those pictures of after that game with confetti coming down and them celebrating with the Lamar Hunt Trophy and watching, Stephon Diggs on the field. That's the kind of stuff that scar tissue that Kansas City used on their run for their first Super Bowl, right? And I think that there's a really valuable way to take something positive out of what happened in the playoffs last year at the AFC Championship game. But I think my overall point is the experience will help them in their next matchup against them on that stage. My question becomes, can Josh Allen play his best game? The games we see him play against Miami, the games we see, because I think that's really the next step for Josh, right? Is him playing at that ceiling week in and week out, not, every week. 2 weeks, great. 1 week back to like average, and then 2-3 weeks great, and then they comes down. So it's a lot of this. If we can get more of this, where we're constantly sort of playing at that ceiling, and he can play at his ceiling. Listen, I think the most exciting part about the Kansas City matchup is we want to see Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, and in both matchups the last year, we didn't get that.
Yeah, and that's so. Yes, you're right. That is the exciting part. Now let's go full circle to how this conversation started. I think the Bills need to at least pick up the phone and call Atlanta and find out, okay, are you guys really that high that you think I'm going to give you a first? What do you really want for Julio? Because like I said, I understand what everybody's saying about he's 32. I like the fears. I'm not saying I understand and I agree, but I understand the fears. He's 32. He was injured last season with the hamstring. I do not think this offseason the Buffalo Bills moved the needle to get closer to the Kansas City Chiefs. And Brandon Beane, after, you remember it, we all remember it, at the end of the season last year, he said, we got to be honest with ourselves. We weren't good enough. We didn't get to the quarterback. We didn't win the game. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. We didn't move the needle. Now, I know we drafted two guys to rush the quarterback, one that we think can probably be very, very active this year, and one hopefully that can develop at that point, and maybe hopefully this season as well. But I just don't think with what we drafted, we've moved the needle to get closer. So like I said, I guess now I am going to say, I want them to call, find out what it takes to get Julio, man. We got to do something. We have
I also, the thing that I think is important about, the Bills not necessarily getting better, but able to sort of stay the same, is when you get into the level that the Bills are at, that the Chiefs are at, that the Buccaneers are at, the wins that they have are their abilities to keep those teams that got to that level intact. And there's really not, the NFL is designed so that those teams can't really get better. Do you know what I mean? And like, I mean, incrementally, sure. Could they get lucky, and could a player, could a rookie, or can someone have that big year 3, right? Or take that big step that gets them over the hump? I think, to be honest with you, the best way the Bills can be better and close the gap is if Ed Oliver takes a step in year 3. If he takes the step that we saw Josh Allen take, he takes like a transcendent step, like 2 steps forward. I don't know that we know what that would do to that defense if he took a step. What if Tremaine Edmonds takes the step everyone that, like me, and not everyone's like me, that think Tremaine Edmonds has really not even scratched the surface of a ceiling yet? What if he all of a sudden takes a big year 4 step, right? What if Dane Jackson is a lockdown number 2 corner, right? What if Dawson Knox turns into and takes a step this year and is a top 15 tight end, right? Like, these are questions that you can't necessarily talk about or maybe pose on May 24th. But if you want to close the gap with the Kansas City Chiefs, the first thing you have to do is maintain the core that got you there. And the Bills did that. Now it's time to say, Oliver, John Feliciano in a full season healthy, right? Cody Ford. These are all players that if the Bills can find that extra developmental step, we're talking about a team that's then closed the gap a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's one way of looking at it, that maybe a lot of us just look at it from a black and white view of, did they add more talent? Did they get better in free agency or the draft? And maybe not about, did Eric Washington find a way to get more out of Ed Oliver than he did in his first 2 years? And those are things that I think, if we're talking about that, maybe they can close that gap a little bit.
Well, I mean, you're 100% right when you talk about defense and you go there. And actually, Lone Wolf had a comment that I threw up there that said that the Bills don't have the defense to hang with the Chiefs offense, but any given Sunday. I actually respectfully disagree with Lone Wolf there, because I do think the Bills have the defense to hang with the Chiefs. I know it didn't look like it last season. I do think that we do. I think last season we had a complete, even though it was like the same core for the most part, we had the same defense that we had the year prior when we had the number 4 defense in the league. We had the same defensive coordinator. The difference, well, there were a bunch of differences. Injuries to Tremaine Edmonds early on, Star Lotulelei opting out. We also had other injuries around the league or around our defense. So with that being said, I'm of the mindset that I feel, to your point, if Oliver can step up, Star comes back and he can kind of add support in the run defense. I don't think he's that much of a, I'll bring Star up again later on. So, because I don't want to miss that point. But I do think the defense can get back to, even if they're not number 4, if we have a top 8, top 7 defense with the offense that we have, I don't think there's anybody that can stop us. So my thing is the offense has to show up during those moments. I do think the defense is going to I think it's happening, man. I think this year is Ed Oliver's year. Honest to God. The Cowboys game, Thanksgiving, that's the Ed Oliver that I think we're going to see a whole lot more this year, because he's not going to have responsibilities that he's not good at. If that makes sense.
It does. I don't think they really want him playing the one technique and rundowns like he was last year. He was their best one technique, and it's tough. That's exactly the same issue that we were sold on in college, where he was needed to play in the one tech at Houston, and he was really better fit at the 3 tech, and the Bills were going to unlock that and give him the opportunity to really focus on playing 3 tech. And injuries, opt-outs forced him to play in a role, much like I think Quentin Jefferson was forced to play in a role that I think didn't really fit what they did well. And I think, I was a little disappointed to see them move on from Quentin Jefferson. I would have liked to see him kind of get in a more in a role that unlocked him more. But let's be real, they drafted 2 guys that are going to probably be better than Quentin Jefferson at the role we're talking about here. So listen, if you can get Ed Oliver in a one technique position on 3rd down with Gregory Rousseau in the 3 tech, Basham on one side and Hughes on another, I think there's a very good chance that you're going to see interior pass rush significantly better than we've seen the last 2 years. So I'm excited, maybe more so than other people are, about Rousseau's interior pass rush ability.
Okay, I was going to go there with you next.
If you can combine Rousseau's length, and he's going to force double teams on 3rd down 100% because those guards are not going to be able to take his hands down. I think I would buy into Ed Oliver having that step this year. And again, I think that's just something we can't necessarily account for, because is Ed Oliver really going to be a guy that's 10.5 sacks from the interior? I don't know, maybe not. But if we could get him to 5.5, 7.5 sacks from the interior, I like this team. If you're going to get better in one area, interior pass rush, particularly against the quarterbacks they're going to have to beat, is a place to get better at.
Well, so you're talking about Greg. I like Greg. I liked him, the year that he played in Miami. Obviously, he opted out. Everybody knows the story now that we drafted our 1st round draft pick. But I actually was very disappointed with the pick. And it was unfortunate that I was disappointed with the pick, because I was actually live for like SB Nation's national show. Like, they're like, hey, we want you to represent Buffalo Rumblings. So I jumped on there and I'm in like live pick. And my guy Stats is like, yeah, so the Buffalo Bills draft Greg Rousseau. And I'm like, oh, yay. Now, this is not an indictment against. I'm happy he's with us now. In the moment, I wanted somebody who I thought could contribute in that first year. You sound like you're higher. Well, I was on the I wanted a cornerback, so I was either at the time Asante Samuel Jr. because he was available. At the beginning of the night, I wanted us to draft Travis Etienne, not because of the running back thing that everybody wanted. It was more so the same conversation I'm having here about Julio. Not necessarily that it had to be a running back. I don't care if it's a running back, wide receiver, tight end. I need somebody. I need another stud. Yeah, just give me another stud that can help Josh Allen just do things. So that's where I was. But Greg, you are higher on Greg than I am. What is it about Greg that you think, even with the year off and the horrible, I don't want to say horrible, the less than impressive combine or workout that he presented, what makes you excited about him?
What makes me excited about him is he feels a lot like Tremaine Edmonds to me. Young, not a lot of experience playing the position, which means to me, and so how about this? He adds a really nice combination of lack of experience, but looks like the kind of guy that can be coached. And if you can marry a tools guy, Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen's a tools guy. He got drafted for tools. And by the way, I think more and more the elite level players that get drafted in the NFL are guys that have traits. They're not guys that put up big college stats. Okay.
Right.
He did have big college stats. I mean, he led the nation in sacks. So if you want to tell me that, maybe Rousseau is a little raw, I agree with you. I think that plays to the Bills' benefit. I think they like their ability to bring him in, coach him up, get him playing in multiple positions. I think he's a player that, if you want setting the edge, if he's not a guy that's going to get you 12 and a half sacks, but can provide 7, be the edge setter and bump in on third down and become a gigantic obstruction in passing lanes in the middle of the field, I think it's a big win for me. And if he can be the better version of Shaq Lawson that I think he can, I think they, especially from the run defense perspective and setting the edge, I think he will be what a lot of us wanted Shaq Lawson to be, except he's got the height and weight that you want to see from a guy like Shaq Lawson's real undersized. I think he can play the same role that Shaq played in his last year that he got paid, but be the traits guy that maybe Shaq wasn't, the athlete that Shaq wasn't. So I like him for a lot of reasons, but I like the marriage of being raw with being coachable, because I think that's the kind of guy that you could bring to a ceiling. And listen, if you can get Gregory Rousseau to his ceiling, we're talking about Jason Pierre-Paul. We're talking about a player of that magnitude, 100%. Now, is it more likely he is Shaq Lawson than he's Jason Pierre-Paul? I think that's probably right. But the ceiling to me is there. The potential is there. That's what really excites me about him.
Okay. I mean, and that's fair, because that's what excites me about our 3rd round draft pick. I'm going to be honest with you, man. When they took Spencer, I was like, wait a minute. This dude here is a monster. I don't know if you obviously not a ton of people got a chance to watch him because of the school that he went to, but if you just look at his workout, you look at his numbers, you look at the attributes that this guy is bringing to the team, dude, I'm so excited to see him in pads. Like I need to see him. I think it might not be like right now, obviously, but it's going to be soon that he's going to work his way in and get some, like, he's going to get reps.
I'm excited to see him at St. John Fisher. He's going to be the biggest guy in the field. I'm just excited to see what he looks like next to pro men. Yeah, because he was big in college and he looked big, but it's FBS, Let's see him in some 32-year-old grown-ass man and see how much bigger he looks. And I think he's still going to look like dwarf them.
Yeah. So this was also another. I'm doing a really good job tonight, by the way. I don't know if you can tell. This is another good segue because I wanted to talk about embedded. Yeah, I wanted to talk about embedded. This is perfect. So we're talking about Greg and we're talking about Basham. I think Joe's favorite draft pick is Basham because he likes to say Basham's going to bash him. Embedded looked like, I know they edited, it looked like they got the guys they wanted.
In the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, it does. And but however, there was a report out there that said Travis Etienne really thought that the Buffalo Bills are going to do what they had to do to get him. So this is going to be a 2-part question. Embedded. How did you feel about that? The whole thing, and do you think they fed us like a, little spoonful, a little bit of a lie there? It's like we got the guys exactly that we wanted, or was Travis Etienne actually talking some real when he said that?
I think both are probably a little true. I think it's very possible. And we'll never know this. I think it's very possible Brandon Beane sold Travis Etienne's agents that you're at 30, we are taking you. And I'm sure they probably thought that. But we'll never know because he wasn't there if they liked Rousseau more than they liked Etienne, and if they would have rather gone Etienne than going Rousseau. But I buy it a little bit. I'm sure they were very straightforward with Etienne's team that if he was available, that they would take him. I think Michelle, first of all, does an unbelievable job with those embedded series and the film work that they do. They absolutely kick it out of the park every single time. But sure, I think there's absolutely a level of, they're not going to go on there and show video of, how pissed off they were Etienne got drafted by the Jaguars at 25. But in the same light, I buy the relationship between Eric Washington and Greg Rousseau that we got to sort of see in real time play out. And I also buy, I was talking to Marcel Louis-Jacques, ESPN, about this. And Marcel was telling me, listen, Drew Rosenhaus before the draft went out and basically tweeted that he thought that Rousseau was a guarantee to go in the first round, that teams had told him if he was available late in the first round, that they would take him. And this isn't Marcel reporting it, but Marcel basically said, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Bills that straight up told Drew Rosen. I was like, if he's there at 30, he isn't getting past us. So I think there's a world where both of those things are true. I think they tell players and they tell agents a lot of things. At the end of the day, we're never going to truly know. It's too bad we won't. I think it would make a really interesting storyline to know if Travis Etienne's on the board at 30 if the Bills pull the trigger.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, speaking of Marcel, shameless plug here. Next week, y'all join me at the same time, the same place. I got my guy Marcel kicking it with me on the Code of Conduct. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. We're actually going to be talking about fantasy too, because he had his draft and I got my draft this Saturday. So we're going to be talking about it.
Bro,
so make sure y'all hear with him.
I am the league commissioner in his draft that he just had. And there was some controversy in that draft. So I guarantee he's coming on this show to talk some shit about me. I guarantee he's going to do it. Well, you know, what's funny is because, you know, Marcel's a good friend of mine. So I'm sure I can only bet. I'm going to have to tune in now, because now I have to watch him and record with my phone to make sure that he's not going out there and talking trash. Because I guarantee he's got some notes. He probably is going to pull out some text messages. I had to make a very stern but very fair ruling in the league, and the league was not happy about the ruling. There was a lot of memes and GIFs about me. There was a lot of talk about outseating me as the commissioner. So I will be watching that podcast very, very closely.
So they treating you like Roger Goodell, man.
Yeah, man. They're booing me at the podium. Yeah, it's no love, man. No love.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all join me next Monday. Marcel is going to be a lot of fun to have on here. And also, I don't have the graphic for it yet, but 2 weeks later, I'm also going to have Mike Rodak on here. I know.
Rodak.
Yeah, Mike's my guy. I know some Bills fans have some moments with him, but the thing, the interesting about Mike, or the interesting thing about Mike, I should say, is that, you know, throughout all of that time that he was here, all the hate that he got from some fans, he still loves Buffalo. He still loves the Bills. He's still a good dude. He's actually a really good dude. So he's gonna come over here and talk some fun stuff with us too. Yeah. So, but back to it really quickly, because we got about 12 minutes left in here. So we were talking about embedded. We're talking about all that.
Yep.
You mentioned earlier, and I took the note. I remember vividly another embedded that actually ticked me off because I watched it prior to. You mentioned our guy Cody Ford.
I knew you were going. I knew that's where you were going. Yeah,
man, I'm gonna tell you. So I actually was in Orchard Park for the draft party when we took him in. You know, when we took him a couple years back, and I wanted DK Metcalf when the selection was made. That's who I wanted. When they drafted Cody Ford. When I tell you now, I just told you I was disappointed with Greg Rousseau. It doesn't even touch the chart. Like, when I tell you the disappointment was real, I was upset with the Bills. Like, I almost wanted to break up for a day just to get back with him later, but I was that mad. Do you think this is the make it or break it year for him? Is he over after this?
Yeah, big time. And listen, as a pretty outspoken, I guess you could call me a Cody Ford hater. It's a huge year for him. And I being the hater that I am, I think there is an excuse, a valid excuse to be made that they have not found his position, and moving him from right tackle to right guard to left guard now. All of that movement has consequence, especially on the offensive line, especially this young in his career. I never bought that he was a right tackle. Not an NFL tackle. And me and Chris Trapasso had sort of been banging the drum about him playing guard. I liked ultimately the move down to guard for him. And I think left guard is a good spot for him to land. If this isn't his year, there just isn't going to be one for Cody Ford. So I think he is a guard. I'm not sure that he's a starting guard. But if you pinned me down right now and asked me, right now if Ike Butker or Cody Ford was your starting left guard at the end of training camp, I would probably say Cody Ford. But if you asked me who the starter would be in week 6 compared to who started week 1, I would probably tell you it'll be Ike Butker.
You think his leash is that short? You think he has a couple games?
I don't. I think it's less about his lease being that short, and they like Ike Butker a lot. And I think it's going to be a stiff competition, and whoever wins it, notably if Cody Ford wins it, I think Cody Ford's lease would be notably shorter than Ike Butker's. Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm with that. I'm not a Cody Ford hater. Like I really
sure.
Like I like the guy.
Harold Fuller makes a good point too in the comments.
Well, no, I was about to bring him up. Well, I was about to bring him up. The thing about Lamp, I feel like he is Cody Ford. I feel like, to this point in his career, they literally have taken the same route. Like they both have underperformed as to what we thought they would be with their draft status.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could both these guys figure it out this offseason and then come in here and then we have two great guards? You know, because that was the potential we were supposed to get. Yeah, that could happen. Nothing's impossible. But man, I tell you, I think this season is the last that we see Cody Ford. I hope and pray that he proves me wrong. The truth is, I want every guy on our team to prove me wrong every time I say something bad. Like when I'm like, no, they can't do it. I don't want to be right. Like I would love for Isaiah McKenzie to win the punt and kick return job and us not miss Andre Roberts one bit. I would love that. Do I think it's going to happen? No. And I love Isaiah McKenzie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, love Isaiah McKenzie. I just don't think that he's going to be developed enough in that role to make us not miss Andre. Now, I'm also a very, very huge Andre fan.
I'm also a big Andre fan as well. But I think they could listen if they end up in a position where they feel like they've got multiple starters. Watch Brandon Beane turn around and turn Ike Butker or Forrest Lamp into a 3rd or 4th round pick, right? That's the kind of stuff that he does. So, they got a 5th round pick for Russell Bodine, for Christ's sake. Right. So I think that's a good position to be in. You want to have interior offensive line depth. Most teams in this league do not. Although I don't think the Bills have, like maybe they've got a top 15. Top 12, top 15 offensive line. I think it's a good, not great offensive line. When they're healthy, I think they're very good. They have, I think, arguably the most depth in the league. If you would have asked me from 1 through 12 on the offensive line, who has from start to finish the shortest gap between the top guy and the end guy, I think that's the Bills. So the Bills can bring, especially after the draft, after you go get a guy like Spencer Brown, who I'm with you on. I think Spencer Brown's the future at right tackle. And what does that sort of mean for the right guard position? What does it mean? So I think there's a lot of things that can happen when Spencer Brown gets inserted into the lineup at right tackle, which I think is maybe about a year away. I think maybe we'll see some of him this year at times as a swing tackle. I think he's going to catch a touchdown, by the way. I think there's going to be a lot of fun ways to sort of play. Look at my crazy ass cat running.
Let's line them up let's get handed off. Let's
something like a Kyle Williams hand. He could fridge that. I would be really interested to see him with. Yeah, he would be a danger with this hand.
I would love it. So listen, man, we got about 7 minutes left, so I'm not gonna hold you. Before I let you go, let me ask you. Let everybody know first where they can find your content, what you got going on, anything special coming up.
Yeah, so my off-season work is pretty much done on Saturday afternoons, 11 a.m. I kick off my Sports Talk Saturday show on WGR, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. My show is, I would say, a decently unique one. I'm a solo host, so I don't spend a lot of time talking into a microphone. I like to bring guests and people that I respect that are entertaining. And I like to just fire off, 15 to 20 minutes worth of questions at them to really kind of get their perspective on things. I think, there's a lot of great radio and podcasts in this town. So I try to be a little different. I try to just bring a varied interview style. So if you've never listened to the show, give us a tune in this week. I'll probably have some great guests on deck like I always do. But yeah, that's my normal 11 to 2 slot on Saturdays. And then from time to time, I'll do some written content, but for the most part, I'm an on-air guy. So I kind of stick to what I'm good at,
Okay. So well, with that being said, everybody first, if you're not following Nate, you should go follow him on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere that he is. Listen to him this weekend. But this is the last part. That's why I asked you that now, because I feel like this part is going to take up the last 5 minutes. Okay. My main man, Anthony, wants to know, what did you shoot today? And we just talked about golf before we went live. We were talking about it. So I know this is going to take a minute here. You got to let us know if you did good or.
I appreciate you giving me 4 minutes to explain it, because I think that's an appropriate amount of time.
It is. It really is.
I did. So today was a qualifying tournament for my club's 2-man best ball tournament, and only the top 15 groups qualify, and the cutoff line is 68. So it's a low number. And my partner and I, we were able to, we combined score of a 68. So we've made the cut. We'll be playing, it's called the Schaefer Cup. So we'll be doing that. Myself, I didn't play a particularly good round. So shooting a 68 with me basically just kind of contributing pars wasn't too bad. I shot an 84. My buddy that I play with, he shot a 75. He's pretty darn good. He's usually about 5 to 7 strokes better than me. But my golf game's coming around. I play a lot. I'm pretty streaky. There'll be a couple of weeks where I'll shoot, 70, 77, and then there'll be a couple of weeks where I'm shooting 85s, 84s. So I'm kind of up and down the board. But the weather has just been so unbelievable. And as you can tell with my matching Travis Matthews shirt and hat, I've carried it over my high school and college football swag wearing days right onto the golf course. So you won't find too many people out at Lancaster Country Club that are looking better than me, and I take pride in that. So.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna throw something out there that I haven't told anybody yet. You're actually the first person,
okay.
and now all of the guests that are in the room with us right now are the first to hear it. So I got a couple things coming up for next year that I'm planning. I was trying to plan the second one for this year, but it has to be next year as well. So the first thing that I'm planning next February in Buffalo, we are going to be at the Riverworks, and we're going to do like the content creator is going to be the combine. Everything that we're doing, I'm in talks with Buffalo Riverworks. I'm talking to some people to host it and do everything. And we're also going to have a podathon. So we're going to have like 5 or 6 live pods. But all your favorite content creators is going to come out and do the combine.
That's
I already talked to some folk. Greg is going to be there from Cover One. We got my man Aaron coming from Cover One.
Nice.
We got a few people. The second thing, though, this is the big thing. Next August, I am going to be starting the first annual Code of Conduct Invitational.
Yeah,
and this is the truth. I've already talked about it. I got the greens and everything. I already got it. So next August, I'm gonna be dropping the dates probably sometimes during the mid-season or during the season. It's gonna be fun, man. So all of the content creators, we're gonna do this thing for charity. We're gonna make it real big in Buffalo. It's gonna be fun. So
you let me know. I will get us some sponsors. I will get us some giveaway swag.
Let's do it.
I'll get the whole 9. So the one good thing is I grew up working at Dick's Sporting Goods. So I used to be their community marketing associate. I used to kind of reach out to local youth programs, golf tournaments. So I got a lot of good connections. We'll get hooked up with some good gear for some raffles and some stuff like that. But I'm all about that, man. So if you need any help, you know how to find me.
Well, you already know I'm gonna be hitting you up. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for spending the last hour with me and my man Nate. We are gonna get on out of here. Y'all know how I do it here. It's Jay Spence the King, Code of Conduct. You can find me on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast and YouTube network at this point. And y'all already know, love each other, take care of each other, and live in peace. And as always, stay positive and test negative. Go Bills.